All right, JoeyRitter.com, on Twitter at Joey Ritter. My guest today is a very accomplished musician. He's sold millions of albums with the presidents of the United States of America. He's also releasing Grammy-nominated children's albums with Caspar Babypants. The tunes are as fun and as fresh as they've ever been. His name is Chris Ballew. He's with us today. Chris, thank you for being here.
Howdy. Thanks for having me, Joey.
Absolutely. Now, before we jump in, I got to say, I've probably done, 55, 60 of these interviews here, and the question gathering and the research and all that good stuff, I don't generally enjoy that all the time, but going down the Chris Ballew rabbit hole and just rewatching all the president's videos and checking out some of the songs of yours that I wasn't familiar with, I got to say it was the most fun I've had prepping for an interview since I can remember. So.
Wow. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It reminds me of in the old days, if my band, pre-President's bands even, if we got a thumbs up from the sound guy, who was, not our sound guy, but just the sound guy at the club who did everybody's sound, that was always the moment where I was like, okay, we're onto something good. If the guy that has to watch every single band is like, yeah, good work, then.
Right. Yeah. Sound guys traditionally are not, I would say, joyous people.
No, they're not bubbly.
Right. Well, good. I'm glad that works out. So
yeah, this is the modern equivalent. Is the podcast preparation thumbs up. So
yeah, good.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So you're a music man with an incredible music mind. I want to go back as far as we can possibly go. How far back in your life can you go in terms of your earliest music memory?
Oh, that's easy. I do have a memory. I think I was about 2, and I had a hammer, and I was banging on a piano with a hammer.
An actual hammer, not a toy hammer?
An actual hammer. Enough of a hammer that made dents in the piano that were there for the whole rest of that piano's existence in our house. So I remember hitting the piano and hearing the resonance of the strings. I wasn't hitting the keys. I was just hitting like the side of the piano, just like gong, 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 gong. So actually it may be that I don't remember that, but that I stared at those divots for the rest of my childhood. So I feel like I remember it. But really the earliest is listening to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which I got when I was 2 and a half in 1967. My brother had given it to my parents for Christmas that year. It came out in June. They got it in December. They didn't understand it or like it or whatever. They filed it away with their Don Ho and Andy Williams records. And I found it and became absolutely obsessed with it for years and years and years. So I do remember just traveling in my mind while listening to that record as a very small child.
The Beatles were very gettable when you're a young kid. They're gettable all throughout all life, but yeah, especially when you're a kid.
Yeah, and especially that record, because that record is so, there's so many different styles on it, and there's so much great visual stuff going on in the both the music and the lyrics. It's like an invitation to set off a movie in your head and watch, So that's what it did for me. And, when you're a little kid like that, the world is so wide open, and it just like invaded my core.
Right. So there's other interviews with you on the YouTube, talking about the first guitar and how you learned. Did you have high school bands? I haven't seen much about the teenage years.
No, I tried. I had one band I had 2 bands in high school. The first one was crazy weird.
Uh-huh.
So do you remember there was an old keyboard called a Casio VL Tone? It was basically a calculator that also was a keyboard. I played that through one side of a headphone, which I had taken off, and I put on the speaker of that little keyboard. And then if you plug headphones into an amplifier, it becomes a microphone. It's the same thing, just reversed. So I put that on the speaker. I tapped it for the drums. I sang into it for the vocals and played the keyboard.
Yes.
All while lying down on the floor because I had no keyboard stand or a way to stand up. So I'm on the floor, and then there was a Hawaiian guy on guitar and a long-haired kind of stoner guy on bass who was like an incredible bass player. We only had 2 songs. We never played out live or anything, but we had rehearsals and we
Uh-huh.
tried. We
That
tried to be a
counts.
band. We were called Spastic Action.
Love it.
Anyway, and then I went on to do a band called, what were we called at the time? I think we were called Mute Testimony or something like that. These were all like, very proto. But that was a little more based on Walla Voodoo. I was a major Walla Voodoo fan. So I had a bank of monophonic, old monophonic synthesizers, MIDI'd up to a 808 drum machine. And my partner Dale played guitar and bass. And we idolized Mark Moreland and Stan Ridgway from Walla Voodoo. And we basically tried to become them.
Sure.
Years later, I would meet Stan Ridgway and have a big fight with him. So
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I've had a fight with Stan Ridgway. I've had a fight with John Flansburgh from They Might Be Giants, and Brian Eno told me to fuck off. So those are
verbal fights or physical fights, or
we can get to those
we
later.
need to get into it, but that surprises me. So you get through high school. I believe you moved to Boston after high school, then moved to Los Angeles. You end up back in Seattle. You link back up with your childhood friend Dave, form the Presidents. I see that you played your first show in late '93. So take me to Seattle at that time, because I'm envisioning, we're kind of past the huge first wave of Nirvana and Pearl Jam, but I think at that time Soundgarden was still breaking, was super unknown. So were you sharing the stage with mostly grunge bands, or was it starting to turn a bit at that
time? I don't know. It's funny. Seattle's always had such an incredibly diverse musical profile, kind of. I mean, we shared the stage with all kinds of bands, weird country bands, art bands. There was a band called Sad Happy that was just like bass and drums, and they were kind of like fusiony and aggressive. And it was just what was that one? Citizens Utilities. They were kind of like aggro punk. So it wasn't really clear like that. It wasn't like, I mean, the members of Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and those guys were kind of and Mudhoney, they were all friends and in our orbit and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Kim from Soundgarden, Kim Thiel, he was like our grunge ambassador. He loved the Presidents and would kind of defend us, I think, against haters.
Right. I mean, like, how were you perceived from crowds at that time?
Oh, loved. I mean, it was ridiculous. We just played as much as we possibly could, because that's all you could really do back then. You couldn't you couldn't put your song up on YouTube or a website or anything. Right. It was just getting up in front of people. And the crowd started to grow, and we just decided, let's just experiment and see if we can play, 3 times a week for 2 months and see what happens. Maybe people get sick of us, maybe they won't, and they didn't. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of those shows was an ASCAP showcase that a bunch of major labels were at. I didn't know. And we just did our weird, wacky, wonderful thing. And the next day we had 7 major label offers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was kind of my next question, because I'm interested in that chunk of time. I guess it would be 1994, because if you're playing your first show in late 93, I know you guys kind of broke around 95. I mean, that seems like a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, did you have an agent right away, or was Chris calling the clubs, booking the shows? Were you handing out flyers to?
Yeah, I was kind of booking a little bit, I guess. Dave and I made a 4-song cassette with a 4-track, calling it The Presidents, but it was like overdubbed, and we put in fake crowd noise. I didn't have a reverb unit at the time, so we used one of those toy microphones that has a spring in it, and I melted a hole in the side and put another microphone in it, so it became a reverb effect. And we put that tape together. And of course, the tape sounded nothing like what we sounded like at the time. We didn't have a drummer at the time. It was just me and Dave.
Okay.
So, but it got us gigs, because whoever heard that tape was like, what is this? This is so weird. I've got to, book these guys. So yeah, my advice, well, this is an old version, but anyway, old advice would be, don't worry about if your demo tape sounds like you, just get the gig. I don't know if that applies to anybody anymore. But yeah, it was kind of me trying to be the booking agent. And really, we were just very amateur. We didn't have a plan at all. We just knew, we just got together and played music to make our lives interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are we doing on Tuesday? I don't know. Why don't we play a show?
There was never even a thought or a goal. You just, the executives happened to be there. You got the offers, and then you were just kind of off to the races from there.
Yeah. I mean, every band I've ever been in, I'd like to have been successful. So we worked hard. We rehearsed a lot. I decided early on in my life, and it was reaffirmed when we were forming the Presidents, that if the songs are going to be surreal and silly and weird, we have to be good. We have to play well,
right,
and sound good and sing on key and
mm-hmm.
harmonize and, deliver a musical package that's pleasing. Because if it's sloppy and silly, there's not much going on there.
Right.
So anyway, I cared about every band I was ever in. So there was a lot of caring going on, but also not caring.
Right.
It was like we cared deeply while appearing not to care at all.
Tell me where you were when you, I guess, I don't know, I'm picturing maybe Kitty was the first song you heard on the radio. What was the first song of yours that you heard on the radio, and where were you?
Ooh, radio. I think it was Lump, and I think it was The End, of course. The End in Seattle was like a huge influencer as far as who got through the tiny sphincter of success. So yeah, it had to be on The End. I don't remember where I was. I think it was at home. I do remember seeing the video for Lump sandwiched on the MTV's Top 10. I was watching MTV in Hawaii on my honeymoon, actually.
Oh, wow.
And we were sandwiched in between Janet Jackson and Destiny's Child or something like that. I was like, what am I doing in that sandwich? I like that sandwich. It's a fine sandwich, but I don't know if it tasted very good.
From what I can piece together, the first I saw of the Lump video was the MTV Buzz Bin, where it was just kind of a commercial where they played clips of the video. And I forget what other bands you were together with, but I just remember, I don't know, just seeing that video, it was just so different. And I'm like, I gotta check out that song because of that one clip. But it's, just another question on the radio. One thing I'm totally curious about is, like, today, 2020, you're in a public place, I don't know, a grocery store, a shopping mall, and they got XM90s on 9 and Peaches comes on, and you're just kind of there, what's that situation like? Does that ever happen?
It's not much. Well, not much right now because I'm just in my house.
Right. Yeah.
But I do get
the pandemic out of it.
Yeah, I do get like emails or texts from people who are like, "Hey, I was just driving and heard your song," and I love every so often to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube and watch some of our old live shows, like Pink Pop 96 is a great show. I just found what I think turned out to be our last club date at Slim's in August of 2014 on a hard drive somewhere. The Live Nation shot it or something, and I never watched it. And I watched it, and I was like, "Wow, this band is awesome." It's funny because I kind of
you get yourself out of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you should love your own band. There's no reason why I shouldn't love everything about this band because I made it up. So why would I compromise my own taste? When we did our first stint and then broke up and we got back together, I remember having the feeling that I was in a President's cover band and feeling like, I felt distant enough from the songs that I just appreciate the songs for what they were. And we were out of the storm of, fame and pressure and all that stuff. So really we could just relax, enjoy the songs, reconnect with the people that loved them. And that reunion felt more real than the first wave, actually. So anyway, now it's just an extension of that. Like I listen to them and if I watch myself on YouTube or whatever, it's like watching someone else, and I love that band.
It's nice. It's really refreshing to hear you say that you can listen and enjoy your own music, because I watch countless interviews, mostly with like actors or actresses. They say they don't watch their own movies, and I don't know. I never believe it. I have to think that there's a bit of a curiosity to see how you're performing, and
I mean, my Caspar Babypants stuff, which I know we'll get to, but the stuff I do for families, I listen to that in the car all the time. I love that stuff. And because that really, I mean, the president's great, but I learned over time that I'm really supposed to be a solo artist, and because I have such an intense, balanced vision of what a song, how each song should, be presented, and just the right chemistry, so it goes click. And so those Caspar albums, man, there's no excuses on those. Like, I love every single song so much. I'm just like, yes.
Yep.
So yeah, so, I think it would be a real bummer if you couldn't enjoy your own work.
For sure.
Right.
So going back to the MTV time frame, just I'm checking out old videos too. I see the one at Mount Rushmore. That one stands out. Obviously, interviews with Kennedy on alternative.
That was fun. That was fun.
Yeah. What about that time, that MTV? What to you stands out the most in that time period?
What to me stands out? I mean, well, like I said, seeing our video sandwiched in between Janet Jackson and Destiny's Child, that's really weird. Weird Al parodying Lump was an amazing MTV-related benchmark. Yep. I mean, having Weird Al be me.
Right.
Because I grew up watching MTV from the get-go, and his, Michael Jackson parodies and all those classic ones were such a part of the fabric of that world.
And his concept with the Forrest Gump, that was so great how it all fit in. I mean, it was
amazing.
It was perfect. Now, how did you get that news? Is it
well, that just came up the other day because I did a Weird Al podcast called the 200-foot inch or something. I can't remember what it's called. And I couldn't remember. And then I talked to Al, and he told me that he played it for me on his tour bus, which I just don't remember at all. Okay. Which is so weird. Yeah. Because he and I are still friends, and we've collaborated a lot over the years, and we, email, and I see him when I go to LA. And so, yeah, I just don't remember that, which just goes to show how much there is to forget. I mean, if you can't remember that, then watching Weird Al play you in a video, and it was the only time he'd ever actually played the song and video for the artist for the first time. So he recorded the song, he recorded the video, and he showed you the finished product. Right. Wow. I thought he had to like kind of clear it with you first before. Well, he out of the goodness of his soul asks for permission to change the lyrics. I think technically the parody law is you don't, but he does the courtesy. So we did give the thumbs up, but we didn't know what. We just said, yeah, go ahead, do what you do. And he did what he did, and then played it for me. And so I wish I could remember it. Well, one thing I hope you can remember, because is the network television debut with David Letterman, because that to me was the holy grail of 90s alternative rock, or just to me, I'm kind of in middle school at that time, so I'm not quite old enough to go to concerts yet. So that was my only exposure to bands that I love so much, and I always like watching bands on Letterman better than like a Saturday Night Live or something. And I'd just burn up VHS tape after VHS tape, taping last night's Letterman. So anything you remember about that, I'd love to know. Yeah, well, I mean, I went to college in the 80s, 83 to 87, and we'd stay up and watch Letterman all the time. And, it was awesome. Throwing watermelons off of roofs and all that great stuff. So yeah, it was amazing. It was like busting through a magic curtain to be in that in that theater. Plus, that's the Ed Sullivan Theater where the Beatles made their debut. Yep. So I stood right where Paul stood when we did our song, and that's just like bzzz, flowing through me. And of course, I remember everyone probably says it was freezing cold. Dave did not want to sweat at all, and so during rehearsal we had to wear like winter coats and hats and everything like that, and then we kind of went more cash for the actual performance. But yeah, I remember we kicked it out. We felt good about it. I chimed in. He held up a flat of the album, LP thing, and at the time, vinyl was not really that hot. Right. And he's like, "What is this?" And I said, "It's a record, Dave." Way off. And he's like, thank you very much. And thank you very much, meaning shut up. So, and then he came over afterwards and we shook hands and stuff. And he
I was
was
going
like,
to say, yeah.
it was like pumpkin orange. The makeup was so intense on his face. I remember that. I remember feeling like I could poke right through it and go into his skull. It was just like frosting.
Was that the only interaction? Because I know that he's not really the type to
Yeah, he's not
socialize with his guests before.
Jay Leno was a lot friendlier and more. He came by the backstage beforehand and hung out. Unfortunately, I was exhausted and I was in this other room, like trying to catch a 20-minute nap, so I didn't get to talk to Jay. But I talked to him after the show, and that that was fun. We had a great time on Leno because the other guest was Shannon Doherty and Chris Farley, I think.
Oh wow!
And that was the same night as what I remember. It was those two, but that was the same time because we were on there a couple times. And we got, we did the song, and then he had us come over after and sit down. We didn't get to talk, but it was just long enough for him to say, and that's the end of the show. And we were sitting there. And Dave Dieter leans over to Jason and I, and he's like, when Jay Leno says goodnight, pig pile on Chris Farley. And so we're like, okay. And so Jay Leno said goodnight, and we just like jumped on Chris Farley, two of us on his back, one around his middle, and he's like got this shocked look on his face, and then he goes into this like, all right, you want to play? He stands up and he starts doing that that Chris Farley like thing, like a van by the river, and we just fly off and knock into Jay's desk and knock his water over and fly into Shannon Doherty, and Jay comes running around and picks up Shannon Doherty and rescues her and like runs away. None of it made it to air, but afterwards, the guys who ran the cameras were like, "You just gave us some good footage for our Christmas party blooper reel." So,
oh well, there you go. Yeah, no,
I've never seen that. I've seen the clip, but it's like good night, and then
that could go one of two ways, and yeah, I could see Chris Farley totally rolling with that.
Oh man, that guy was intense.
Yes.
I got the sense that if you walked up to him and said, "Hey, Chris, it'd be really," people would love it if you put a fork in your eyeball. He'd be just like, "Give me a fork." So,
yeah.
Very intense guy.
One thing I want to mention is, this show's kind of based out of the Philadelphia region.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to any, as you've been touring over the years, did you get to spend some time in Philly? Mm-hmm. Anything significant there?
2 words:
mm-hmm. Cheese
and steak.
Uh-huh.
Every time we played there, I was just like honing in, like, where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Yeah. So I don't remember what club we played in, but I kind of remember that we played in the same club quite a bit. And it was down the street from like a open market kind of place, like a farmer's market, not a farmer's market, an enclosed kind of old brick building.
I'm thinking, was it the TLA? Does that sound familiar?
What is that? I don't know. What does that stand for?
Theater of Living Arts. It's on South Street, and if you walk a couple blocks down, I think you hit the Italian market.
Yeah, it might have been the Italian market. Yeah. So I would always go there for cheesesteak. So,
yeah.
But, back in the day, we were so in and out and so tired and just like, it was like John Lennon said when he got back from Sweden and someone said, "How was Sweden?" He said, "It was a room and a car and a room and a car and a room and a car and a cheese sandwich."
Right. Now you got the cheesesteak.
Yeah, it was a room and a car and a room and a car and a room and a car and a cheesesteak. Exactly.
So let's get to Caspar Babypants. I love what you're doing. I've got an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, so I'm your target audience. I mean, I'm so confused this day and age, right? Because, and you alluded to it with the Beatles. When I was a kid, my parents had a great record collection, and I'm just kind of swimming in it, looking at all the liner notes, just playing and discovering by myself at such a young age. And I want to buy my daughter a stereo. I don't even know what to get her. Do I get her like an iPad that syncs up with it or whatever it is? But what you're doing and just creating a live music environment for kids, I just think it's super important. And so I'm curious, you were a front man for a successful rock band, and now you're kind of being a front man for kids. Can you pull out the same tricks or did you have to completely relearn what it takes to be a front man?
Some of the same tricks. Yeah. I mean, it's the same sensation of relating to the crowd. I always felt like with the Presidents, I was trying to relate to the silly, irreverent side of people, like the childlike side of people. And the Presidents and Caspar are pretty close. The Presidents, though, was like innocence and innuendo kind of rubbing up against each other. And Caspar's just the innocent part. So, and it turned out that friction, that innocence and innuendo thing was a little hard for me to repeat. I couldn't quite, corral that chemistry together again. Whereas the Caspar things, just, letting the childlike side of me just be, free to be itself and not have to have that kind of grown up friction in it, is just, it's like my musical home. It's like where I was traveling the whole time. Presidents were fantastic. I loved it, but it was a stepping stone to arrive at my final destination.
It all makes sense, because I watched some Caspar videos, and I feel like some of those songs could have appeared on President's albums in some way, shape, or form.
Totally. In fact, we've intonated a little bit about doing an album or a split single maybe where Caspar does a President's song and the Presidents do a Caspar song, or something. But yeah, they're very similar. Yeah, which is why I think the music I'm making as Caspar Babypants works for grown-ups too. I get a lot of feedback like, I dropped the kids off at school and kept listening all day. Like I'm making it again for myself, and I'm making it for the childlike part of me as a grown-up. I'm really not like trying to think, what do kids want to hear, or I need a toothbrushing song, or
yeah.
I'm way more interested in satisfying the part of me that was satisfied by listening to Sgt. Pepper's as a kid, like to paint pictures and have no particular one style, but just like all over the map, bluegrass, classical, grungy, whatever the song deserves. So anyway, I'm super proud of that.
That's awesome. So when you're playing these live shows, you got kids, and you got parents probably hanging out in the back. Do they ever?
Oh no, the parents are right up front.
No, the parents are. They ever yell like peaches?
Oh yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I'm like, that's a different ticket price. I did in the early days of Caspar. I would throw Dune Buggy or Kitty in. I would change the words in Kitty a little.
I hope so.
But, I found over the time, like I really felt like I wanted to create my own world, and an old President song in that world creates like a false spike of intensity, like, oh my God. But I have been experimenting with doing Caspar adult pants shows where I turn up the distortion on my guitar and I play in a club with a PA, like loud, for drinking adults. But I do Caspar Babypants songs for these adults, and there I'll throw in, like I did one a few months ago. I threw Dune Buggy in, so yeah, and it's just me solo, so it's kind of a different take on it.
Yeah, it just seems like you're super motivated, and you're cranking out albums. I think, what do you have, like 19 Caspar
17. I have my 17th is called Bug Out, and it just came out in early May, and then I have 2 more totally done, mastered, ready to roll, that I'm going to wait on till it's time. I'll see how long this quarantine goes on. If people are itching for another album, I'll just drop one. And then I've got a 4-song EP of covers, that Caspar EP, that I've also got in the bank. So I've got 2 albums and a vinyl 7-inch in the bank, and I'm just going to meter them out over the next couple of years and see what happens.
You're just a machine. It's like, and I mean this complimentary, but like, I played in bands through my middle school, high school, college years, and fortunately I was in bands with good songwriters. I was more the booking guy, but like when I see you play, it seems so effortless. It just seems like you pick up a guitar, you start playing, and all of a sudden you got the most super catchy line. I imagine there's some duds in there that you don't. But
oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work. I can swear here, right? It's a shitload of work.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I'm actually right now, I'm taking a big break from doing anything goal oriented with music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got this like piano and I just sit down. I'll just do that for an hour. So I'm trying to like give myself, I'm trying to give myself the gift of just like being in the moment and not making an album or writing a song or any of that stuff, just playing music, which is something I lost when the presidents were a big deal. I actually could not just sit down and play, and it was terrifying. Like these voices would go off like, is that a hit? Is that a hit? Record that. That might turn into something. Oh, you're letting it slip away, la la la. So now I'm just really excited to kind of give myself a break. I'm doing visual art now too. I'm doing these black and white graphic drawings. So I'm kind of enjoying being an artist at the moment, visual artist. We got a couple shows in Seattle and doing that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just, it's a lot of work because I'm super hard on myself with the Caspar stuff. Like if it doesn't feel exactly right, I gotta get in there and I gotta figure out what it is. Maybe it's the wrong key. Maybe it needs to be a little bit faster, a little bit slower. Maybe the story's being told the wrong way. And I don't shy away from even the slightest twinge of incompleteness in the song. Like if I hear something like, oh, that guitar is just needs to go, I'll go in, gotta fix it. So yeah. Anyway, that's why I work like a banshee on all that stuff, and that's why I'm kind of burned out and giving myself some free time because it's exhausting. It's all I master the records, I sequence them, I distribute them, I promote them, I book the shows, I play the shows. I'm the roadie, I'm the driver, so I'm the merch guy. Yeah. So it's a total one-man DIY thing. So I'm kind of enjoying taking a break right now. It's nice.
Well. Perfect. So we're going to wrap this up and let you go, Chris. But, once we kind of unpause the world and get back to it, what besides kind of new albums, what do you see either for Caspar, other musical projects? I don't know if the presidents are ever going to do anything again, but what do you see in the next few years?
I don't see the presidents doing anything. I think we're settled. I think that chapter's been closed, which is nice. I think I'll put out a couple more Caspar albums, and then I think I'll hang that up too. And I think I'm going to be a visual artist for. I think I think I'm starting the next chapter, which is because I went to art school. I really wanted to be an artist, but I had nothing to say. And now I have a voice. I've figured out what I want to say and what it means and all that stuff. So I'm pretty excited to dig into that. But I'm also like, who knows? With the presidents, never say never.
Yeah, never say never.
Never say never. I learned, when we broke up the first time, I thought there's no way. And then we got back together 5 years later for 13 years. So
still a lot of time left,
Still a lot of time. I'll tell you one thing, though. I will never, ever take the stage and play in a way where I have to wear earplugs or in-ear monitors again, because I've fried my ears, and the inhumane level of noise that we generated will never happen. So if the presidents got back together, it might be some sort of like, acoustic review or something, or campfire sing-along version. But perfect. Which I might, you never know. You might have heard it here first.
I got the exclusive. Hopefully,
exclusive.
It hits Philly.
Presidents might do something they don't even have planned yet.
Capital might.
Yeah, right.
So, Chris, I can't thank you enough for doing this. People can find you online at babypantsmusic.com, on Twitter at Caspar Babypants, and on Instagram at Chris Ballew, Ballew. Chris, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
I'm an acorn small and round, lying on the cold, cold ground. Everyone walks over me, that is why I'm cracked, you see. I'm a nut, I'm a nut, I'm a nut. I'm a nut. Called myself on the telephone just to hear my golden tone. Asked me out for a little date, picked me up at 8:30. I'm a nut, I'm a nut, I'm a nut, I'm a nut. Put on special party pants, then I asked myself to dance. I said no, then I said yes. By now I think you have guessed. I'm a nut, I'm a nut, I'm a nut, I'm a nut. Took myself to see a show. Wanted candy but said no. Held my hand and kissed my cheek. Made a date to go next week. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. Asked myself to marry me. Had to take some time to think. I know that I am the best. Called myself and I said yes. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. Rainy Sunday, feeling bleak. Let's play a game of hide and seek. Searched in the barn, searched in a pit. Found myself and said, you're it. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. Got a bike, it's built for two. Me and me knew what to do. I sat in front, I sat in back. Got so tired we took a nap. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. Gravity has a tiny flaw. One of me on the seesaw. Lucky I am so crazy, so both of me can seesaw. See, I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. Left hand, right hand, not enough. This piano's just too tough. But I have four hands, I can do it. Solo, no, I am a duet. I'm an acorn, brown and sweet, lying in the middle of the street. All the cars run over me, so I run back to the big oak tree. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. I'm crazy.